Broadcasting from Detroit's Cass Corridor, it's the Metro on WDET. I'm Robin Vincent.
And I'm Tia Graham. Today on the show is about boundaries. Who sets them, who crosses them, and who pushes back.
We'll start in Lansing, where lawmakers are opening the session with rare momentum. A bipartisan bill to ban cell phones in public and charter schools passed the House after stalling just months ago.
We'll also take stock of this moment of activism. Many are choosing not to just grieve, but to organize, disrupt, and confront the systems they believe are responsible for recent lives lost.
Then we turn to care, labor, and repair. We'll talk with an artist who frames rest as resistance and as a reclaiming of power for Black communities in Detroit.
2 hours about pressure and response and how people decide when to comply, when to rest, and when to organize. This is the Metro.
We begin in Michigan's halls of power, where the state legislature is starting a new session with some energy. In the Republican-controlled House, lawmakers overwhelmingly passed a bill banning cell phones in charter and public schools. The bill had strong bipartisan support. Now it's headed to the Michigan Senate, where Democrats hold the majority. Many school districts in the state already have phone bans and restrictions. But this recent vote in the House was significant. A similar bill didn't pass the same chamber last summer. Inaction was indeed a theme last legislative session. Lawmakers in Lansing passed the fewest number of bills on record. So what changed? And what other bills might the legislature be able to pass along bipartisan lines this session? To discuss that, we have Mark Tisdall here. He's a Republican representing Rochester Hills in the state legislature and the sponsor of the cell phone ban bill. Representative Tisdall, welcome.
Good morning. It's good to be here.
So first, tell me, why are you pushing for a cell phone ban in charter and public schools?
Well, the evidence, the science is in. It's a huge distraction in the learning environment. If Michigan schools were knocking it out of the park, that would be one thing, but we're ranked in the bottom 10. Some will have some categories as low as 44th in the nation. The state has a $20 billion interest in K through 12 education and what goes on in the classrooms. And we know in the schools, as you indicated in your introduction, there are a number of school districts out there, maybe as many as 40 now, that have implemented and enforced, which is the key, smartphone restrictions and prohibitions. And the results are fantastic. They're tremendous. And not just in the test scores, but in the drama associated with these devices in the schools. The videoing, the photographing, the posting, the behavioral issues that result out of that. And so it's time just to get back a little bit to focusing on what the classroom is all about. And that's learning and picking up knowledge and not worrying about who's posting what on your favorite social media site. And if I may, that's a significant part of the reason for having a statewide set of standards. If every one of your friends across the state, your peers across the state, is offline during instruction time or during the school day, you're not missing anything.
That's right.
So put the phone away.
I mean, when you talk about the drama associated with phones, sometimes I wish someone would take my phone away. And I think that there is sort of this expectation for many of us who live lives where we do have to be connected to what's going on, that we're constantly checking our phones. You're talking about this expectation leaking into young people's lives as well. And so taking it away in a blanket format, I can see how that could yield some really good results and also take a lot of the pressure and stress off of educators, too. Now, this bill failed to pass the House last summer, though. It missed the mark by a few votes because almost all the Democrats voted against the bill. And I do want to note the Metro contacted State Representative Ranjiv Puri, and he said there was a better bill in the Senate, and that was why Democrats didn't support the House bill back in the summer. Why do you think it passed this time?
Well, there was not a better bill in the Senate. The Senate passed a bill, and it did not establish standards. It made recommendations. And many states have followed that process, only to follow it back up with standards. At the time, many that voted no on the other side of the aisle said it was because there was not yet a budget in place and they weren't going to vote for any Republican legislation until a budget was in place. Most likely, it was simply an opportunity. The Republicans, you need 56 votes to pass anything. The Republicans did not have 56 members on the House floor. We were reliant upon votes from the other side of the aisle. And it was just an opportunity for them to flex their political muscles a little bit, prove their relevance. But unfortunately, it was on an issue that deals with kids in schools. That's about a 72% approval from parents.
Representative Tisdall, were there any concessions or compromises made to bring Democrats on board this time around?
Well, my first draft of this bill was in June of 2023.
So you've been working on this for more than a hot minute.
I have been indeed. And there have been plenty of changes and compromises. Senator Paul Hankey, who's the chair of the Education Committee in the Senate, has been a great working partner. Representative Nancy DeBoer, who's the chair of the Education Committee in the House, and Representative Regina Weiss, who was the past chair of Education in the House. They've all been great working partners. David Randles and the Oakland County Intermediate School District superintendents, I've been talking to them probably for about 18 months on this now. And visiting schools, visiting high schools, talking to principals. So yeah, there was a lot of massaging and a lot of coordinating and compromising and putting together a piece of legislation that eventually garnered 99 votes out of 110.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it passed overwhelmingly, 99-10. And in contrast, the state legislature wrapped up 2025 passing the lowest number of bills on record. And I do want to ask you about that. But before we move in that direction, when I mentioned earlier that the cell phones in schools, the proliferation of them is really a big stress on educators. I saw your face light up, and you just mentioned how you've been talking with a lot of principals. Tell me overall some of the things, like some specific things that principals, that educators have been telling you while you've been working on this bill, why they think that this is so necessary.
Well, there's a great story told by Principal Gomez, Avondale Middle School in Auburn Hills, and she gave testimony during the House Education Committee hearing. They're probably in their fourth or fifth year now of a bell-to-bell prohibition of smartphones.
Bell-to-bell prohibition.
The morning bell to the afternoon dismissal bell. You just put them away and you leave them away. And what you hear from some of the teachers is the first day they walk in with that, they look out and there are 30 pairs of eyes looking back at them.
Whoa, that is
which is a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
Principal Gomez told a story about one of the administrators early on in the process came over to see how it was going from school administration building, and that individual asked Principal Gomez if there was some kind of special event or assembly going on today. And Principal said, no. Why do you ask? He said, well, it's so noisy. Kids were talking to each other. They weren't walking down the hallways with their noses planted in a screen.
Representative Tisdall, it sounds like we could all learn something from what was happening there in that classroom.
Well, many corporations now, many businesses now, before you go into the conference room for a meeting, Phones are left in a basket outside the conference room. Number of studies. You can have it turned off and in your pocket. It's still a distraction because you're wondering what's going on in there. Yeah. You can have it turned off and sitting on your desk. I use the example, this is an addictive device. And that's the whole point of the social media algorithm, is to keep you coming back and coming back and coming back. That makes you a more valuable data point for them to sell. So I use the analogy, a recovering alcoholic. Put a can of beer on their desk while they're trying to work. It's not open. They're not going to drink it, but it would be a huge distraction. So if this is in fact, and Governor Hochul out of New York was one of the first I heard use this term, this is an addictive device. So when do we allow students to carry around a product that they're addicted to during the school day? It doesn't make any sense.
It's the Metro on WDET. I'm Robin Vincent. My guest is State Representative Mark Tisdall. He's a Republican out of Rochester Hills, and we're discussing a cell phones in schools ban bill that he helped to pass out of the State House. We do have to think about a little bit of the pushback, Representative Tisdall. I mean, there are some folks, including a lot of parents, who want their kids to have phones in the classroom in case they need to contact them for an emergency. What do you say to those folks?
Well, that was one of the compromises or adjustments we made in the bill relatively early on, and it's very similar to what other states are doing. There is an emergency use provision in the bill, so long as it's within the protocols, the emergency protocols of the school building and the school district. Also, basic phones, and I've been referring to smartphones. Basic phones are allowed at any time during the school day. A basic phone, you make a phone call, you send a text, you put it away. The problem with a smartphone is there's so many things you can do with it, you never put it away. So those two compromises are in the bill.
Well, speaking of non-smartphones or dumb phones, as some folks would call them,
basic phones. We'll stick with basic phones.
There's an argument to be made that kids shouldn't even be allowed to have those basic phones in the classroom because those are a distraction too. They could be texting others. They could get a call from someone. What do you make of the perspective that if someone wants to reach a student, they can call the school and get to them that way?
Well, parents are among some of the biggest abusers, calling or texting their children during the school day and during instruction time. But again, the example back at Avondale Middle School and across the state, what you hear is that as these policies are put into place, they'll replace the phone tree, the phone answering tree, with a live person, and it's just the old technology. You need to get a hold of your student. Someone sends a note down to the classroom and says, "Come on back and call your parents." There's nothing new in any of this, but we want the focus in class time to be on our educators and not on that world's most attractive entertainment source, the internet.
I'm glad you brought up the idea of technology. It has me thinking about, more broadly speaking, how technology should be used in the classroom. And I'm wondering your thoughts.
Well, again, in the bill, there's a provision that at the request of the teacher, a lesson-specific academic assignment can utilize the smartphones. The bill also allows for school-issued technology.
Laptops, tablets.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. That's within the school's authority and purview to augment education, which is, again, the entire focus. But that's not, in general, what smartphones are being used for in the classroom by kids right now.
Is it not, though, a slippery slope? I mean, when we're talking about trying to distinguish between what is considered productive technology versus what is a distraction.
Always. And every piece of legislation we pass, there's going to be a workaround. Utopia or perfection is not on the menu in Lansing or anywhere else. But you just have to trust the administrators, the principals, the teachers. They know what needs to be done. And with this as a statewide standard and as state law, they know that their backs are covered when they go through the enforcement process. And you get pushback from parents. By making it a state law, it takes the responsibility off of the individual teachers, off of the individual principals, and they can point to mean old Representative Tisdall if they want.
You can be the scapegoat. I mean, we know that we're asking schools right now to do more than they ever have. So I'm hearing from you that this is a way to alleviate some of that immense pressure. Representative Tisdall, should the state be doing more, though, to promote digital literacy alongside restrictions like this one?
Right now, I'm far less worried about digital literacy than I am literacy, period. We're among some of the lowest reading scores in the nation. You go back to 2020, I think we were maybe, our education, we were maybe ranked 18th or 19th in the country. Yeah. We're now in the bottom 10. So digital literacy is taking a back seat in my mind to just plain old reading and math. And if you've got a graduating senior that can't read their diploma, that's a problem. And so that's issue number one.
I want to go back to this cell phone ban bill itself and mention again that it passed overwhelmingly in a 99-10 vote. And again, in contrast, the state legislature wrapped up 2025 passing the lowest number of bills on record. So I would be remiss not to pose this question to you, Representative Tisdall, before I let you go. Why do you think so much legislation stalled last session and didn't pass out of the State House?
Well, a focus on quality versus quantity is always good. I would tell you that Lansing, and particularly 56 votes in the House of Representatives, is not necessarily the font of wisdom. But, it's a 2-against-1 environment right now. The Democratic Party controls the governor's seat. They control the Senate, and the Republicans control the House. So it was an opportunity with just one of the three legs of the stool to exert our wants. And if you look at when there was a specific deadline and our backs were against the wall, we produced legislation, and pretty darn good legislation. If you take a look at the compromise that was put forward on minimum wage and earned time off, earned paid time. If you take a look at the budget, the different budget votes received close to 100 votes in the House on every item. Roads, no taxes on tips, Social Security.
Tisdall, yeah. I'm going to jump in because we are running out of time here. I mean, I'm wondering, do you think voters, though, should be concerned when so little legislation moves?
Well, that presumes that all legislation is good. And sometimes people will thank me for moving so little legislation.
Well, are you confident that other measures can pass out of the House? And what has to be different this session for that confidence to be justified? Because sure, you can make the argument of quantity over quality, but there's also the argument that a lot of necessary bills just did not move.
Well, again, necessary is a subjective. And so we have a responsibility to those that voted us in, as the other side has a responsibility to their voters. And it's that conflict that needs to be brought together. In my first term, the Republicans led the legislature with Governor Whitmer holding the pen. And you knew if you wanted your bill to be signed into law, you needed cooperation from the other side of the aisle. There was an awful lot of back and forth. In my second term under the Democratic trifecta, that kind of went away. So this very first term back now of divided government again, we're finding our way. We're working that out. And I'm anticipating that there will be more and more of that, even in an election year.
In the last 30 seconds that we have here, what other bills are you working on that you think can pass during this legislative session?
Well, me personally, to complement the smartphone prohibition during instruction time, I have House Bill 4388 that requires age verification when opening a social media account or to continue an existing social media account. We do not allow minors to consent to a contract. When you open up a social media account, you have to agree to a terms of use agreement. That is a legally binding contract. That has to come to an end.
Mark Tisdall is a Republican representing Rochester Hills in the state legislature. Representative Tisdall, thanks so much for joining me today.
You're welcome, and I appreciate your interest.
It's the Metro on WDET. Up next, after a federal immigration officer killed Renee Good in Minneapolis, displays of anger, grief, and mourning have drawn people together across the U.S. I speak with an author who asks what happens when everyday people stand up to the power brokers who make and enforce the law of the land. That's next on the Metro. We'll be right back.